We live? We're good? Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's 8:45. We have one person this morning to speak for public comment. If you would like to step up to the mic there and then state your name.
Stanley Minson.
Good morning.
I just had a couple questions on this sales tax they're putting on. It was supposed to be for 10 years. How come we're extending it for another 20 years? And there's a place you can find out how much revenue it generates for road repair. And that's about it, you know. I read the article, it talked about a gas tax, but it wasn't a gas tax. So, but other than that, that's the only questions I got.
Sure. I know it's going to be a discussion point this morning on the regular board meeting, if you want to stick around for that and hear the input from the commissioners and stuff. At that point, it will be discussed.
Then you can comment at that time,
Yep.
then too, or not?
I would believe so, I guess. I don't see why not.
But on that county report, is there just a specific place in that for this 0.5% gas tax? You
On
know, to
the
put out
county
well, what they
budget
do-
system, you mean, or something?
No, their year-end financial statement.
It's within the road and bridge.
Oh, so it's
that
all
Lauren
incorporated
present-
in.
Yeah,
You
Lauren
can't-
presents it. He's got a line item for that.
Does he?
So,
It's all under Public Works,
Right.
is where it's all headlined under, with designated projects. Yep,
and he'll probably have that data with him today, too.
I'm sure
as
he
well.
will.
Yeah.
Yep,
What time is he gonna be here?
He is on at 9:30,
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I've
He
talked to
should be
him
here by
because he
9 o'clock.
9:25, excuse me.
lives over there, but I didn't ask any questions about how much it generated and
yeah, nope, that information will all be out there. Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, good morning, everyone. We welcome you to the second regular board meeting for the month of July. Today's date is Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. Time is 9 a.m. All commissioners are present, along with the auditor, treasurer, and county coordinator. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, any amendments to the agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, hearing none, I would look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent items.
Today's items are meeting minute approval for July 5th, 2022, a gambling permit for Midwest Outdoor Unlimited Prairie Partners Chapter, the hire of an Assistant County Attorney 1, Chris Bergman, start date to be determined, the resignation of Seasonal Officer Support Specialist 2 for EAP, Mari Ludwig, for 7/14/2022, approve 2022 tobacco license for Shattuck Hub Supper Club, and resignation of Spencer Norlinger, Planning and Zoning Intern, 7/27/2022.
Okay, you've heard the consent items. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Auditor treasurer.
First item is to approve the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. The recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $88,519.29.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the commissioner warrants for a total of $88,519.29. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Roll call.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
The next item then is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. The recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Services Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $111,474.32.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the Health and Human Services Commissioner warrants totaling $111,474.32. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
Last item I have then is the Health and Human Service, SSIS warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service, SSIS warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $73,023.70.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants totaling the amount $73,023.70. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Initiative Foundation. Good morning.
Morning. Morning, Mr. Chair. Morning, Commissioners. Appreciate a few minutes of your time. It's always nice to be back in person and to come over and give a quick update on the Foundation's activities here in Todd County. And in your packet, you have what we call the impact update for Todd County. These are statistics that go back all the way to 1986. So we could kind of just highlight these, and then I've got some more current numbers to point out as well. We just always like to track how much money has been raised within a county and contrast that with how much we've been able to invest back into that county as a foundation. And so you can see since 1986, 2.24 million in local donations from within Todd County, and an investment back into Todd County of 5.4 million for an ROI of $2.43. So $2.43 back in for every dollar raised. And this is something that we're very proud of as a foundation. We feel like it's kind of been one of our, so to say, one of our skills to go out and find funds from outside our 14 county region, capture those funds and bring them in and put them to work here in our region and in our counties specifically. Some real more specific numbers there, 1986 to present, total 555 grants for 2.4 million. About 150 scholarships, 92,000, 71 loans totaling 1.9 million, creating or retaining 937 jobs and leveraging right around 9 million in outside capital. So we do continue to do our offer our lending services, and generally we provide gap financing for projects. We don't want to compete with local banks or financial institutions, but we do want to help projects happen. So many times banks will come to us, is generally how we operate, and say, we've got a great project. For example, we've got a great project in this small community. A bank might say, we're a little uncomfortable financing the whole project, but we do feel like it's important with the Initiative Foundation care to take on the riskier portion of the loan, come into a second position, et cetera. And so that's kind of where we like to come in and fill a gap with our gap financing and help make those projects happen. We are a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, and so we go out and get grants from the U.S. Department of Treasury CDFI fund that we then put in a revolving loan fund, and those are meant specifically to be deployed in rural communities and help make those kind of lending projects happen. So we're real happy to do that and to continue to offer that. Lending has been down a little bit in the last couple of years, surprisingly. Folks haven't been looking to expand, et cetera, but is picking up this year, and we're happy to continue to provide that. Always like to highlight our lending. One of our biggest challenges is that sometimes banks don't know that we're an option. So we like to highlight that everywhere we go and remind folks, if you know of a project or a financial institution and someone's looking to get something done, boy, we sure like those folks to reach out to us and see if we can help, especially if it's a gap financing situation. Also noted there are the 9 partner funds that we host that operate in Todd County. Not only do we run some of our own programming, and not only do we do lending, like I just mentioned, we are a traditional community foundation. So we host funds, donor advised fund, field of interest funds, education foundations, et cetera, that provide grants back into the region as well. We have 9 active funds here in Todd County. We provide a great level of service to those funds. Again, our goal is to take care of all of their let's say the legal side of having a fund. We want to file that tax form, make sure all your grants are legal, make sure everything's correct on the accounting side, and then the advisory committee of those funds get to take care of the fun part, decide what sorts of grants they want to make and put those grant applications out, review them, award grants, et cetera. So that's how we service those funds, and we enjoy that and continue to do that. And also like to highlight that as well. If anyone knows of folks that are looking to start funds, whether that's education funds, community funds, et cetera, we're always happy to host those and to help people get those established and get those up and running. So excited about that. I think one of our best programs that we run is our nonprofit assistance programming. We serve a lot of nonprofits every year. The last few years in COVID, again, so much of this has been remote and, using Zoom. But it's kind of been an interesting trend. It has opened the doors up to serve some folks want to come in and be in person, and that's great. Other organizations, especially nonprofits, it's less expensive, no travel. They don't have to travel to Little Falls for training, so Zoom's been kind of an interesting tool for us. But we continue to do fundraising training, specifically for nonprofits. That's been the big one lately that people have been requesting. Can you help us get our fundraising, I want to say, modernized? We need a more modern system for managing donors. We need a more modern system for writing appeals and delivering appeal letters, tracking our donations. And so we've been doing a lot of that training for nonprofits lately, and we've been excited to do that. Going to continue to offer that training specifically for nonprofits. Following that is just the list of grants and projects and et cetera that have been funded in 2019 through 2021. It's a long list. We just like to provide it so people can get a quick glance at the work we've been up to. And again, on this one, as you can see right on the top, a lot of emergency relief and recovery grants to local businesses. And that's been a big project of ours, partnership with Deed. And I think I mentioned the last time I was here, we found out when Deed announced it publicly that we were going to be facilitating all of their emergency business relief grants in central Minnesota. So it was kind of a surprise for us, but I do believe in 2020 we administered almost $7 million in Deed's grants, $10,000 grants typically, so about 700. And then in 2021, we did another 800 of those grants. Some of those just wrapped up here in 2022. But for a foundation that typically does about $2.5 million in grant making, to have to spool up our capacity to do $7 million or $8 million in grants was a pretty big run for us. At one point, we had 24 of our 26 staff working on that Deed Emergency Relief and Recovery project alone. And it really is consistent support from individuals, donors, businesses, and our cities and counties that kind of put us in that position when Deed said, would you guys take this project on? Can you handle it? We were able to just say, yeah, we'll do it. It's aligned with our mission. We're more than happy to make that happen. If we've got to divert staff, we have the resources administratively to move folks around and do what we've got to do and get this delivered. It's important for the region, important for our cities and our communities. So we were happy to jump on board with Deed and make that happen. We do think that's over, and Deed doesn't have any more projects like that spooling up. But I would highlight one of the other interesting things that Deed came through with was a Main Street Economic Revitalization Program, a big grant. It was very complicated. It took a bit of time to put together. We kind of got the word from Deed a little late for a second round in 2022, and only a few of our communities were able to get all their documents together, but Long Prairie was one of those communities. And so basically you had to establish an economic corridor in which Deed was then going to allow money for grants at, I think it's a 30% and a 70% match, and you have to put together a local committee to administer all that. But we were able to submit that application with 6 communities, Long Prairie being one of them, and Deed did fund that. And so we're happy to see Long Prairie will be getting some of those grant funds to put to work in the downtown economic corridor. So we're excited about that. It is locally driven, and the foundation is just kind of hosting those funds and helping administer the grants as a local advisory committee kind of puts that into play and decides what's best to do downtown. Another great grant that I wanted to point out about a year ago, the Otto Bremer Trust came to the Initiative Foundation and said, would you be willing to do some emergency business relief loans? And we kind of went back to Otto Bremer and said, we just don't feel like people need emergency business relief loans. We'd like to see people doing emergency business relief grants. And we feel like the nonprofit sector has kind of been left out of a lot of emergency business relief. So we would like to not only be able to deploy grants to businesses, but also to nonprofits. And so the Otto Bremer Trust had initially offered us $2 million for emergency business relief loans, which we said, again, no, I don't think anybody needs another loan or wants another loan. Let's do grants. So Otto Bremer then circled back to us and said, yeah, that's a great idea. We'd like to give you that $2 million to deploy in your region as grants. And so we were excited because we often are only able to offer small grants to nonprofits. We wanted to offer transformative grants, and Hands of Hope Resource Center that is directly serving Todd County, we were able to award them a $75,000 grant, which we felt like was kind of a needle mover grant. Let's give you a significant amount, enough to really move a project forward or move your organization forward in place of the $5,000 or $10,000 grants that you might often see, on our list up there. So we were excited to go, and again, it's an example of our ability to go out and grab those funds from outside the region and bring them in and put them to work here in our region. So we're excited to do that. And also, I would also highlight our Enterprise Academy team. Enterprise Academy is a program that supports minority entrepreneurs trying to start businesses or grow businesses. It's been very successful in St. Cloud and in Mille Lacs, and is now making an effort to launch some cohorts here in Long Prairie. And we've been working to try and build relationships and launch some cohorts. It's a 12-week program. Folks go through all sorts of business planning. How do you pay your property taxes? How do you get this done? You know, how do you really run a business right? And like I say, it's been very successful. We're hoping to run a couple cohorts, one specifically here in Long Prairie, and another program recently that we were able to secure funds from Wells Fargo Foundation to support businesses, minority-led businesses, and we were able to deploy 2 of those grants, $10,000 grants, to businesses here in Long Prairie, actually just last week. So they wouldn't show up on any of these documents. They're all a little older. So excited to see some of that work going. We're always excited to support our local businesses, emerging entrepreneurs, and nonprofits in these sorts of ways, and happy to continue to do it. So on that impact report, I listed some of those 1986 numbers. I'll just run through a couple more recent numbers, and then I'd be happy to take any questions. So far in 2022, we have deployed about $35,000 in relief and recovery grants in Todd County. And people have been asking me, you know, just since the pandemic began, and I don't think I have any of this information on those sheets, but since the pandemic began, what does the work look like? So from 20 through 21 and now into 22, what's the work look like in our area? If you, from 2020 through 2021, about $254,000 of emergency relief and recovery grants here in Todd County, and in 2021 another 35, so about $289,000 in relief and recovery work in Todd County since 2020. On top of that, I mentioned the partner funds and our own innovation fund grant making to nonprofits. Those totals would be in 2020 through 2021 would be about $174,000, and then in 2022 so far another $32,000, so about $206,000 in innovation fund. That's our own grant making and the grants of the partner funds we host here in Todd County. A lot of those folks, I lump all that together just to say a lot of those partner funds even shifted their grant priorities to relief and recovery over the last few years, and now we're seeing everybody shift back to more traditional, you know, grant guidelines, funding nonprofits, et cetera. We're all kind of moving away from relief and recovery. You can see how that worked there. So if you total those up, 2020, 21, and so far in 2022, emergency relief and recovery and our own component funds, partner funds, and our own innovation fund grant making total about $495,000 in Todd County total. So, and would just like to highlight I mentioned the Enterprise Academy folks. They're doing this training, specifically social media marketing, doing it in St. Cloud, but it said this is a workshop that they have planned for here in Long Prairie, specifically in the future as an example of that expanding work as well, the Enterprise Academy program. So happy to see that growing in this area. And we appreciate your support. I think Todd County supports the foundation at about $8,000 a year. I believe that's what our request is this year. $7,500, my apologies. And we appreciate your support, and again, that just helps us be positioned to do all this, support all this work across all these programs and initiatives as well. So we appreciate that. I think you have our request for 2023, and be happy to take any questions anybody might have.
Questions, commissioners? Just want to say thank you. Yeah,
Just appreciative of everything you do for the county, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
very nice.
We're happy to do it. We enjoy it.
Nice presentation.
Thank you. As always, any questions, projects, anything that comes up, we're always more than happy to be involved, and don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
All right, then we would have Initiative Foundation contribution.
Mr. Chair, I have a board action this morning for the Initiative Foundation annual contribution. The background for this is the Todd County Board of Commissioners has budgeted for an annual contribution to the Initiative Foundation in the past budget years. The Initiative Foundation is requesting confirmation on whether the contribution will be continued for the 2023 budget year with a requested allocation amount of $7,500. The options are to approve the annual contribution of $7,500 for Initiative Foundation for 2023 budget year, or do not approve, and the recommendation is to approve.
Okay, we've seen the board action for the $7,500 contribution to the Initiative Foundation. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, is there room for a motion to increase, increase the amount? I think I've done this every year, ask for an increase. I think if you see that the return on investment is 2.5 times our, what they invest here, and I think it's a great organization, and they help out a lot of people in the county, so, and businesses, so I would move that we increase to 8,000.
Okay, we have a motion to make it an $8,000 contribution from Commissioner Kircher. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Becker. Discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think with the inflation and interest rates going up, I think some of our businesses might need some more help. So
Well, it's well worth our investment, and actually, I think 8,000 is pretty minimal for us to invest. I certainly would have made more, but I think we have to watch our budgets and see what we're doing here this year. So I don't know what the Finance Committee has done with this part of it, but I would encourage the board to support this.
I think we have time to adjust yet on the budget end of it, so.
sure.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Egg.
I'm presenting this on behalf of Nancy. Today she's asking for a acknowledge of receipt for County Ditch 8 hold harmless agreement for ditch maintenance. Acting as ditch authority, acknowledge receipt of a hold harmless agreement petition from Aspen Plantation LLP to clean out part of County Ditch 8 on parcel 26-00274001, Ward Township 28. And there's the application that Aspen Plantation made, and this is the map where they're cleaning out.
I'll move it.
Okay, seeing the board action for the acknowledgement of the hold harmless agreement for ditch 8, we have a motion by Kneisel.
Second.
Seconded by Kircher. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Public Works. Morning, Lauren.
Good morning, everyone. Our first item on the agenda this morning for Public Works is a discussion and resolution for the Todd County Local Option Sales Tax for Transportation. Attached is a pretty lengthy resolution, so with permission of the board, I'd just like to read the resolves as part of this. Is that acceptable to the board? All right.
Sure.
So we'll start there. Now therefore be it resolved that the Todd County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes and enacts the continuation of the 0.5% transportation sales tax as provided for in Minnesota Statute 297A.993 for dedicated funding to projects listed on the Todd County Local Option Sales Tax list of potential projects 2023 through 2042, which is referenced here by attachment. And be it further resolved that the 0.5% transportation sales tax will terminate at such time that sufficient revenues have been raised to fund projects listed on the Todd County Local Option Sales Tax list of potential projects 2023 through 2042. And be it further resolved that this action supersedes County Board Resolution 2014-0916-09 and shall be effective immediately without causing interruption to the current sales tax collection. And be it further resolved that the Todd County Board of Commissioners hereby requests that the transportation sales tax continue to be collected and administered by the State of Minnesota Department of Revenue as provided for in Minnesota Statute 297A.99, Subdivision 4 and Subdivision 6 through 13. So behind that is that said list of projects. So at this time, our two options for this action are approve the attached resolution or do not approve the attached resolution as read. And our recommendations at that time is to approve the attached resolution.
Okay. I'm gonna put discussion first. We had, Mr. Menson in earlier during public comment.
Okay.
They just had a couple comments or questions on this.
Sure.
And so if you have your information with you, maybe you could answer a couple
Sure.
questions that he had.
How much revenue did that 0.5% generate over 10 years?
For 10 years, a little over 10 million.
One for 20 years, right?
Yes.
Last meeting, you said you'd have up to that 10 million. I don't know how you do that. How many roofs are upgraded more than what we had before at the rate they were going?
How many roads are?
Yeah, that we improved with this 10 million versus what the local gas tax.
This specific revenue is dedicated specifically for county roads, those numbered 55 and above. So the county state aid highways, which are numbered 1 through 55, get gas tax. So the local roads get no gas tax. So this is our only funding source unless we relied on local levy dollars.
Any money from the state using these other roads as detours?
Yes, we do. Yep, every single time an agreement comes through MnDOT to the county board, and they provide reimbursement through the gas tax method of equations, so, yep.
So these other roads, they don't get any money from the license fees or anything like that there for license plates?
Yep, that's part of the gas tax. It's called the Highway User Transportation Distribution Fund.
That's the ones that fall under county state aid, correct, Lauren?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
all part of that. It's kind of known as the gas tax, because that's the major contribution part of that fund.
Correct.
But the sales, part of the motor vehicle sales goes in there, and license tab fees.
Yep.
I wanted to hear.
All right, thank you, Mr. Menson.
Thank you.
Okay, you've seen the board action and heard and saw part of the resolution there, and would be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Kneisel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Newman. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I could, Lauren, we're gonna kind of go through that list on the road meeting coming up this fall. Is that what we kind of discussed earlier?
Absolutely, yep. We'll be
Okay.
doing that. So we're looking at the future as far as which part of that list is the preservation, overlays, gravel surfacing, and then which roads, if there's additional funds remaining, which ones we want to improve, like
Okay.
putting a lift of asphalt on an existing gravel surfaced road. Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All
you,
right,
Lauren.
thank you. And our last item on the agenda is a request for final payment authorization for a 2020 dust control contract. Our options are to approve the attached resolution or do not approve the attached resolution. And our recommendation to approve the attached resolution, making final payment for a dust control contract to Knife River Corporation for $6,086.60.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the final payment as directed. Looking for a motion. Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. County Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I will be reading this board action in the absence of the county attorney. So this board action is to accept the resignation of Charles G. Rasmussen. The background is resignation of Charles G. Rasmussen, Todd County Attorney, will be effective August 12th, 2022. The options are to approve the resignation of Charles G. Rasmussen, Todd County Attorney, effective August 12th, 2022, or not approve, and the recommendation is to approve. And with this, Chuck has submitted within this packet his letter of resignation.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the resignation of Chuck Rasmussen, Todd County Attorney, effective 8/12/2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Kircher, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. And following that, just a point of discussion for Office of County Attorney vacancy discussion. The background is to just discuss options to fill the vacancy of Office of County Attorney pursuant to Minnesota statutes 382.02 and 375.08. So I have provided to you those specific statutes governing the filling of the vacancies of elected county attorney. Just to kind of review that a little bit, I'm just gonna read this into record so we understand. 375.08 states that when a vacancy occurs in the office of an elected county auditor, county treasurer, county recorder, sheriff, county attorney, county surveyor, or coroner, the county board shall fill it by appointment. For that purpose, it shall meet at the usual place of meeting upon 1 day's notice from the chair or clerk, which shall be served personally upon each member of, in the same manner as district court summons. The person appointed shall give the bond and take the oath required by law and serve the remainder of the term and until a successor qualifies. When a vacancy occurs in an office that has a chief deputy or a first assistant, the chief deputy or first assistant may perform all the duties and functions of the office until it is filled by appointment by the county board. So with the county attorney's office, there is not a specific chief deputy or first attorney assistant. So with that, an appointment needs to be made by the county board. And that appointment needs to make sure that the vacancy is filled once Chuck leaves office. So I am prepared for the next board meeting to bring that request forward to do an appointment. And at that time of appointment, we would also do setting of salary of that appointed official. Chuck does give some description within his letter of resignation. We do know that we have had representation from the county attorney's office, having John Lindeman sit in Chuck's absence. So I will be bringing that appointment forward at the August 2nd meeting.
Okay. No decisions needing at this point on this particular item, just discussion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, Health and Human Services.
Good morning, Mr.
Good
Chair.
morning, Jackie.
With me today, for the board action forum, I have Charity Herbst from Sourcewell, if there's any Sourcewell-related questions. So our board action forum, some background. Region 5 counties of Crow Wing, Morrison, and Todd, along with the Region 5 Plus Mental Health Initiative, are seeking a shared services agreement with Sourcewell to hire a regional mental health coordinator. Following the Greater State of Mind survey, which was completed in 2021, efforts were started to secure such a position. The purpose of the position will be to assist in building regional mental health services for children, adults, and families throughout the region. The position will coordinate with partners through the region and provide administration and coordination of future regional mental health projects. Your options are to approve the Regional Mental Health Coordinator Shared Services Agreement or to not approve. It's our recommendation to approve the Regional Mental Health Coordinator Shared Services Agreement. We do have it budgeted for 2023, but we do have funds available within our fund balances to support the position for the remainder of this year.
Okay, seen the board action for the Regional Mental Health Coordinator Shared Service Agreement. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, could you run back by the budget again, because it says not budgeted, but you said you have funds left over?
We did not budget it for 2022, so that's
Okay.
why we say it's not budgeted, but we do have funds available for that last 6 months of this year to support the position, the shared position. And then we will budget it for 2023.
Okay, so you do have money to
We
cover
do
it
have
for
money.
this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Question?
Sure.
How are you going to actually run this program, Jackie? Will there be people in each school district or each town? Will it be a central office? You know, how
The position will be housed out of Sourcewell, so it'll be a Sourcewell employee. We will just assist in funding it, and then Sourcewell provides a portion of that funding as well. But it's gonna be one person that's gonna coordinate with all of those service entities to gather the data and then, help us, best strategize on how we need to move forward with our gaps in services around mental health.
Okay, so that person will probably be Staples.
Could be. I mean, it could be in one of our communities, and then they may be working remotely through Sourcewell.
We will have them working pretty closely with our schools, mental health providers, consumers of mental health services, law enforcement, and hospitals, to just coordinate what's going on in the mental health world and try to fill the gaps and create efficiencies in some of the services that aren't as efficient as we'd like to see.
Okay, needs being met than more
Yes.
Right.
coordinated, okay. Thank you.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Questions, as long as we're in the discussion mode?
Could I ask a question? Are you doing this for each county, or are you just, is it just for us in a regional? It's gonna cover all of the region? Is that what?
Right. It's gonna cover Region 5, and it's gonna be one position shared among the 5 counties.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, did the county attorney review this?
He did.
Okay.
And I also sent it to Mr. Lindeman to review as well.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
On where you got the split out who's paying for what, the county's percentage. It's Region 5 and AMHI, covering Cass and Wadena counties. What does AMHI stand for?
It's the Adult Mental Health Initiative.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out what
Thank
the
you.
initials.
We should have spelled that out.
Any other discussion? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Solid waste. Who do we have this morning? Mike? Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you this morning, the Solid Waste Department has been working with the Design Committee and Stantec, the engineering firm that has been handling most of our strategic planning of the layout of the site, is to prepare a conceptual design of the proposed new transfer station. Attached, you will see is the latest layout. This is a third-generation drawing, so we've had quite a bit of time put into this, and that has received comments based upon our staff review, along with committee input and response from customers and haulers as well. Our recommendation is that Todd County Board is to approve it, so Stantec can proceed with their detailed design and architectural layout. The proposed office building design, size and layout shown will need to be evaluated before it proceeds to detailed design. Some of that issue is sizing of it, but that's all later to be discussed in the design. When we had our work session, I know a lot of commissioners were kind of concerned about how the layout of different places were, so we inputted this as a rough design of where the retention pond is, and there were some questions about where the roll-offs were gonna be placed, but this is our final design, and to authorize is what our options are for today, is to approve the design of this layout so we can then continue architectural design and start doing site borings. So this is how the new transfer station would lay out on the property itself.
Mike, I just have a quick question. The lower right-hand corner is the existing in and out off from 71 right now, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted to get the general
Yep.
perception of where it's at, so.
Yep.
And then the upper left is going up to the hill up above.
That actually is behind the
Oh, that's actually
existing
back
transfer
further.
station. and recycling area.
Okay.
Just to the center of that, in front of the existing building is where it goes up to the
Gotcha.
grade.
Yep,
Yep.
see it. Didn't see that other part of that building there, so, yeah.
And through our work sessions and concerns and a lot of the feedback we got from customers, it was upon our committee was really to try to navigate our consumers from the public away from our commercial activities, just to reduce our liabilities and really to increase and enhance their service. So as you can see in the light green, it really isolates our public from our hauler situation, which goes to the backside of the building.
Nice.
Really enhances, as far as a lot more one-on-one contact to help the customers find where they need to go with their products. So we're really excited about the way it has kind of designed through the work of the committee itself too, so.
Mr. Chair, I have a question in reference to the entrance, with citizens coming in, haulers coming in and going out. What is the width there proper? And is the traffic control, I mean, is it sufficient there on 71? And, are they gonna have some interference coming in and meeting each other and blah, blah, blah? And just wondering about that, because
Right now, Stantec does not believe that there's an issue with the radiuses that enter onto 71. There is enough room. It's kind of misleading a little bit because of the drawing. There's a lot more space between there where they're actually starting to turn, where that bottleneck is between that and the beginning of the transfer station. So they might have to widen it, but the actual interference with construction into 71 is something that they don't view as a problem.
right, okay, I just was wondering, because
Yep.
it looks like they're gonna be meeting each other there at that gate, and, what's the congestion gonna be right there?
Right.
So,
And the one thing with the conceptual design is we put a lot of forethought in how, because the recycling out of the old building is gonna increase. They expect it to increase about 15% by 2025. So this design really helps us service the recycling where we gotta go to the roll-off dumpster relocation. So it's pretty accessible, because that is currently a bituminous surface. So it's real easy for our hook trucks to run down there and grab them and go back to our recycling center. So that is another big issue that was of concern. The other big concern was the property line to the south. There's a significant property owner there, so we're really trying to reduce contamination of wind blow off and stuff. So we tried to isolate that to the north as another advantage. The tree line to the north, and there's a considerable elevation there. So we don't really have much wind drawn through there, where the south side is a lot more accessible to wind. And that's where we create a lot of wind pollution, if you want to call it that, so.
Great. All right, so we've seen a board action, and we would look for a motion to approve a site layout as presented for the solid waste.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
second.
Second by Newman. Any further discussion?
I would just say that, I appreciate Mike getting a lot of input from the employees and from the truckers and everything, everybody down the line had input on this, and so that was good that we got all that input from everybody.
Yeah, the first two generation maps, just so you're aware, we actually posted it in the office so they could see that, and we had, comment section posters just put up. Because, that's what we're here for, is to serve the public. So we wanted to make sure they had good input along with ours, so we had a lot of good comments from it, so.
Super. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. Scheduling of biannual waste meetings, solid waste meeting.
This is something that the committee addressed. There used to be biannual meetings according to the staff and the committee before, and it's just kind of with COVID and things that kind of fell apart, and it's just something that we are requesting to start schedule meetings with you this summer. And this is just a slot times that we can start looking at and try to get some schedules put in to start having biannual meetings with the commissioners themselves, the whole board, and something that we can view the landfill. I was out there this morning, actually, just so you guys know, the landfill cell is completed. So we are closed with that part, so we're excited for you guys to see that, you know, actual process being completed. So there's a lot of activity out there that you guys would like to take a look at, so. And other dates will work, it doesn't really affect it, but them are just three options laid out there for Chris McCon to be able to attend with his schedule, but we can work with that as well.
Time of day on some of those, Mike, do you know, like the regular solid waste committee, is that morning, isn't it, guys?
Yes, 10 o'clock.
Okay. Anybody have any input on those dates? Or, I'm gone the 8th, but other than that, I
I'm
think.
gone to 27th also.
My 11th looked good off of my calendar.
11th works for me.
The 11th would work here.
Would work for you too. That look all right, Randy?
I think so, yeah.
Mr. Chair, could I just ask for a little bit of clarification? Mike, would this be in place of that solid waste committee meeting? Do you
Or
know,
to
would it
follow,
be-
or
would it
whatever.
follow? It would follow, okay.
Where we're at, August 11th.
So what time of the day are you looking at?
What time's your regular meeting start?
10
You're
o'clock.
10, and are you about an hour normally?
Yep, normally an hour.
So like 11-ish?
11, yeah.
August 11th at 11?
Yeah, I think so.
Work?
Yep.
Should we go with that for now? Okay. Do we need a motion for that or anything? Yes? Okay. So I would look for a motion to approve the meeting for biannual solid waste meeting for August 11th at 11 a.m.
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Planning and zoning. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Morning, Adam.
Morning. All right, my first item this morning, Kimberly Moller's request for CUP. An application for a conditional use permit was received on May 26th for obtaining a car dealer's license and holding online live auctions and sales on parcel 01001570 in Bartlett Township in AF2 zoning. The item was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the July 7th public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with the following conditions. 1. Placement of future structures and on-site storage of vehicles must meet the applicable setback distance for the zoning district in which it is located. 2. Off-street parking must be provided for all on-site auctions. There should be no parking within the road right-of-way. 3. Signage for this business should be compliant with the requirements of the ordinance and should not be placed within the road right-of-way. And 4. That the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards. The option would be to grant the CUP with those proposed conditions, deny the CUP, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. And the recommendation would be to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP with those proposed conditions.
Okay, you've seen the board action for Kimberly Muller request for CUP. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
I'll second, but I have a question.
Second by Becker. Got some discussion?
Yes, please. Adam, if they have on-site auctions, do they need to, as far as outhouses or facilities in that nature?
That would be on them to supply those. We don't have any requirements of that in the ordinance specifically. If that was a condition or something, I think you could add that if you wanted to. But it was not a consideration of the Planning Commission at that time. I would assume they would provide those sort of services. They do have, they live on that site and also have like an office structure down in the back of the property too. That I don't know if it has a restroom inside of that or not. but they do have added tons and tons of parking space out there. I would assume that they would provide those type of services for online, say,
Yeah, it is right
auctions,
off
or-
of 210 also. So
Right,
the-
yep.
The road is very good.
right, it's just a short distance down the gravel to get to the driveway.
Is that something in future projects or whatever that we should be looking at for planning and zoning or not?
It wouldn't be a bad consideration. There isn't a specific requirement of that, but it wouldn't be a bad consideration to have that type of service provided for this type of service. We don't see a lot of these, but it's certainly a good consideration.
Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, next, Samuel J. Beachy request for CUP. An application for a conditional use permit was received on June 15th to establish a sawmill operation on parcel 05003100 in Berlin Township in AF1 zoning. The item was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the July 7th public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with the following conditions. 1, the hours of operation shall be restricted 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Saturday. 2, operation site shall meet all the required setback requirements for the zoning district in which it is located. 3, should be no loading or unloading of materials within the road right-of-way. And 4, the applicant must abide by all other applicable federal, state, and local standards. The options are to grant the CUP with the proposed conditions, deny the CUP, or remand it back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. And the recommendation would be to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP with the proposed conditions.
Okay, seeing the board action for Samuel J. Beachy, request for CUP, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion? And again, that was motion to approve with conditions, correct? Okay,
And
any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, the John T. Kaufman request for CUP. An application for a conditional use permit was received on June 8th, 2022 to establish an Amish parochial school on parcel 20001201 Reynolds Township in AF1 zoning. The item was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the July 7th public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with the following conditions. 1, the schoolhouse must meet the required setbacks as stated in section 9.11 of the Todd County Ordinance or be granted a variance for the reduced setback distance. And 2, submit an approved plan for septic compliance on the site. The options would be to grant the CUP with the proposed conditions, deny the CUP, or remand back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. And the recommendation would be to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP with those proposed conditions.
Okay, you've seen the board action for the John T. Kaufman request for CUP, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion?
the driveway into the school's coming, or the driveway into the school's coming off his own driveway, right? And not off
Right.
the public road?
Yep, they have no plans to add an additional driveway access. It'll come off the existing one.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And lastly, request to rezone parcel 12002200. The request to rezone this parcel in Hartford Township from commercial zoning to residential 2 was submitted on June 13th by Lori Spahala. The request was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the July 7th public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the rezoning with no conditions. The options are to grant the rezone to R2 with no conditions, deny the rezone, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. And the recommendation would be to adopt the findings of the planning commission and grant the rezoning of parcel 1200220000 from commercial to R2 with no conditions.
I have discussion, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Adam, why would you have to rezone from commercial to residential?
Commercial zoning does not allow residential structures, new residential, if you have an existing one at the time of the change, but this particular parcel did not have a house on it, and they wanted to build a home there, and so they needed to rezone it to some sort of zoning district that allows for residential structures.
Okay, that doesn't make sense to me, but
Mr. Chair, if I may, this parcel being in Breville, I'm well familiar with. It's where the dollar store is,
Yeah.
and they had bought that thinking they were gonna build there and then didn't and sold to the dollar store, but they retained some of the land in the back. And now, since her husband deceased, she'd like to build a house there. Is that correct, Ed?
That's correct, yep.
It's a narrow strip of land. It's
Mm-hmm.
really narrow.
Yeah, and to the east is actually the city of Browerville, and there's a home there, and to the west, I think there's two houses next door, so there's this chunk of commercial that can't have a residential structure on it because it's commercial, but it's not a good spot for commercial activity.
so I assume it was always zoned commercial.
And that changed at some point around the time of the dollar store coming in.
So it changed, okay, that's what I was
Right.
wondering
Went
about.
from ag to commercial.
Why
It's
it
going
was
from
changed,
commercial to
okay.
residential.
Yep,
Okay, now I get it. I just was trying to figure out how that happened, so.
sure.
Okay, I would be looking for a motion, the board action to request rezone a parcel as listed 120022000.
So moved. Sorry.
Motion by Becker, second by Kircher. Any further discussion?
Probably gonna get more of them.
There's already been discussions with the two neighboring landowners that have partial residential and partial commercial. They'd like that changed to all residential, so I've been talking about some options with them, which might be at a work session in the near future for further discussion.
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Standing reports, auditor treasurer.
The only thing I want to remind residents that absentee voting remains available at the auditor's office for the upcoming August 9th state primary election.
Okay. Thank you. Any commissioner reports?
Yes, Mr. Chair, last night Lauren and I attended the West Union City Council meeting to discuss the bypass coming off County Road 46 off the interstate. We made 4 proposals. The citizens did not like any of the proposals, so the council did vote to keep the road as is. They did bring up some issues that I wasn't aware of, that there's no speed limit signs coming off the interstate into West Union. There's a lot of semis jake braking, so they brought those concerns up. Speed was an issue. So we will probably be bringing a board action to the next meeting on asking MnDOT to do a speed study from the interstate into the city of West Union. Also, I've been dealing with a lot of, like water issues, road issues, township and state 27. They continue to work on it. It's gonna be nice when it's done. So, that's all I got.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just like to compliment the people who worked at the Todd County Fair. Was there on Friday and Saturday. Looked like they had very nice crowds, well attended and so forth, so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kneisel, Commissioner Kircher, nothing?
I got a library board meeting this afternoon, and we'll be doing the annual budget, and which Todd County is gonna be increased, or amount is gonna be increased.
Gary, that didn't happen while I was
Oh,
there.
yeah, we know all about that.
That's why it's lagging behind, right?
Yeah, that's why we gotta catch up.
Oh, I see.
That's where I would've went with it anyways. I have nothing at this time. How about from the attorney's office? Anything new and exciting there?
We're busy, but nothing extraordinarily new or exciting.
All right, sounds good. At that point, I guess I would look for, oh, I'm sorry. It was almost in my other type here that I kind of blended in, so.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just have one item to report, and that's just a reminder of our tour of Higgins Long Lake on Friday at 11 a.m.
All right. Anything else? Otherwise, I would look for a motion to adjourn for the month of July.
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we'll look to start the work session. start the work session for Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. Time now is 10:09. We'll go with that. And on the agenda, we have a discussion for legislative update. And we are happy to have our representative here, so I think, do you want to kind of
Sure, yep.
run the show or take it? I don't know if we have an order of progression here, or if we're just gonna wing it, or what we're doing, so.
So, Mr. Chair, this morning is going to be pretty informal and pretty laid back, I'm going to say, but we are very thankful that Representative Poston could take the time today to come and visit with us, give us an opportunity to share any concerns that we might have or topics that we might have finishing out this legislative season, but also wanting to really take an opportunity to thank Representative Poston for all the work that he's done. So with that, maybe you want to just start with kind of where things ended, which we all know, but you might be able to give us a little bit of information.
Well, I'll kind of just repeat what I just said to the commissioners, I guess, but.
Amen.
First, thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure to come work with you guys. It's been a pleasure, representing, Todd County and working with all you folks. You do this so efficiently and so professionally. It's really appreciated, because it's certainly not that way where I come from down in St. Paul, right? This session that just ended in St. Paul, quite honestly, not very much was accomplished. We had this was our policy session, which our policy session, we work on policy, we work on a supplemental budget, which is meant to be emergency budget items that we didn't do the year before, and we do a bonding bill. And the bonding bill, for instance, always starts in the House, and we never even had the opportunity to look at the bonding bill. It never came to the House floor. We didn't do an awful lot of policy because there wasn't much agreement, and it seemed more like a full-time budget session than a policy session. When you have the kind of surplus, or I would rather refer to it as overtaxation, that we have in our bank account in the state, everybody is looking for money. So every committee that I serve on felt more like we were in a budget year than in a policy year. And most of those things did not pass. And I'm grateful that they didn't, because we didn't go into this session to really have the time to work through all of those issues. We did some of them, as you know. We got the unemployment insurance piece taken care of. We got the frontline worker bonus pay taken care of, but we didn't do much more other than that. So that money is still sitting in the coffers, and I think that's overall probably a pretty good thing, because I think it's going to be spent more responsibly now, with more time put into it. But as a legislature, it seems like everyone was in a big hurry to spend that money. And I was in a big hurry not to. Quite honestly, I looked at it and talked to constituents, and looked at it like I look at my business. If I have extra money, I keep that money in the bank for a rainy day. If I, in my business, need to buy something new, a new piece of equipment, and I have the money, I pay for it. I don't borrow. So, I put forth some bills in this session that said, if we do a bonding bill, we're not going to bond for it, we're just going to pay for it. Which our bonding bills have ran around $1 billion every bonding session, and we very easily could have paid for that. Instead of sending it down the road, for our kids and grandchildren to pay for. And the argument was, well, these are really low interest loans. Well, there's no such thing as low interest on $1 billion. I mean, it still creates a big bunch of debt, right? And so, we tried to do some things that were more responsible, and they failed. So I'm glad the money is still sitting there, and it will be spent, like I said, better, I believe, going forward. It was again another session where one of the biggest battles, and I've told you all this before, and I never thought this was going to be true when I went into the legislature, but one of the biggest battles is Greater Minnesota battling Metro Minnesota. And it was that again. As we were trying to get things like drought relief and money for township roads and different things like that, the Metro was trying to pass marijuana bills and different things that, to us out in the land of rocks and cows really doesn't matter too much. So it was a kind of a contentious session. It wasn't what it should have been. We got right down to the deadline and nothing really passed that should have. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of it as best I possibly can. But I would rather, open it up to questions than me continuing to ramble about all the stuff that we didn't get done.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, if I could just ask Representative Poston. I'm curious to know what happens with county program aid, with the CPA, county program aid. So we have, every year we receive funds from the state, the county program aid, and this year the proposed amount of county program aid was scheduled to be greater, and I'm just wondering what happens with that at this point.
That was a part of an omnibus bill that didn't get presented, and it didn't pass.
Okay.
So that's like so many things, that would have been good for counties. Would have been good for, there were a lot of good things for people, for municipalities, for counties, that should have gotten done. And, because some of these bills had some pretty contentious things in it, they didn't get passed. And a lot of them never even made it to the House floor, to be honest with you. A year ago, in our budget session, you may recall when I came here after the budget session, I told you that we didn't see a single budget presented on the House floor before the end of session. We had to do all of that in special session. Same thing is true this time around. We didn't do the things that we were supposed to do in session, and it looked like we were going to go back into special session. I don't think we are going to now. I doubt very much that will happen. The governor is the only one that can call us back into special session, and I think the governor is quite nervous about doing that. And we wouldn't go back unless there was a real commitment between, the House, the Senate, the DFL, and the GOP to, have things ready to just push over the finish line. And there was one sort of agreement that you probably heard about on the news where, there was going to be $4 billion was going to be kept in savings, $4 billion was going to go for infrastructure, et cetera. Well, that really wasn't agreed upon. It was between the leaders of the House and the Senate, but the problem with that is every legislator has a voting certificate. Every legislator votes. And they didn't have the consensus in the legislature to come up with that agreement. Plus, it wasn't going to work anyway. That $4 billion that was going to be put into savings with everything going on in the economy right now doesn't look like it will be there. Remember, a lot of this money that we talk about is forward-looking money. It's not actual money in the bank account in some cases. But the majority of that money is, we had a big influx of money, federal money, as you know, during COVID, but we've also been overtaxing pretty heavily. And we did try to change some taxes. We did try to lower some taxes to stop, creating such a surplus, and we just couldn't get that done. The two parties wouldn't agree on it. So Right now, we are overtaxing at a rate of pretty close to $800 million a month. It's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
So there has to be some things done with our taxes going forward. We now are in the top 5 highest tax states in the country, and we should not be. We need to change that.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Kathy Langer would like to share some information with Representative Poston, so Kathy is going to come up.
Chris, I think you need to pull a mic closer to you because it's just not coming through. I can't barely hear you. So.
Okay.
Is it on?
It is. It's pretty low.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Representative Poston. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. I really just want to thank you for everything you've done over the years to try to secure funding for corrections. I know you've worked really hard at that, and I really appreciate the policy discussions and the funding discussions that took place this last session. And even though nothing passed with regard to probation funding, I think a good foundation was laid. So I'm really hopeful for next year.
I think one thing, if I can just jump in for a second, not in this particular session or the one before, we did not have our corrections committee like we'd had in the past. I do believe that will become an addition in the upcoming term, and that's important. And I served on that for one term, and it's good sometimes to separate. It's right now it's a part of public safety, which is where it belongs, but it was nice to have a subcommittee on just corrections and be able to address a lot of things in our prisons and jails.
I really appreciate that. Probation and corrections will be singled out for its own committee. It is definitely one leg of the stool that can't always be lumped in. We supervise and work with over 700 individuals, justice-involved individuals between the two counties. We work really, really hard to keep them out of the system in the future and keep our communities safe and reduce costs to the counties. We're getting less funding from the state in 2022 than we did 20 years ago. And our caseloads have gone up. We increase our services and our programming, and that's really truly through the dedication of our staff and the commissioners to continue to invest. And so I just want to recap that I'm really grateful for the work that you've done, and we will miss you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I will certainly miss being here too.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Chair, we have Jackie Ock, the Director of Health and Human Services, and some of her staff who would like to come up and address Representative Poston as well.
Mike will be on the line, so
I need to bring him on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Broadworks Collaboration Center. You will now be placed into the conference. You are the first participant in the conference. To turn off the music, press pound. Press star for help.
And who is this?
This would be Jackie Ock with Health and Human Services.
Mike Steinbeiser.
Mike, okay. No, I was
So-
curious who that was.
There he is. I hear
Okay.
him. So welcome. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your years of service as well. It has,
Thank you.
your contributions have not gone unnoticed, and we do appreciate all the work that you've done
Thank you.
for us and throughout the state. So Jackie Ock, Health and Human Services.
Lisa Chapin.
And we have Mike Steinbeiser on the phone from
Morning, Mike.
Health Services. Just a couple things that we kind of wanted to discuss with you, just around the significant burdens, administrative burdens, through DHS policy with processing applications for assistance. The policies have become very burdensome and complex over the most recent years, pre-COVID, COVID, and now we're hopefully planning for post-COVID. I'm going to let Lisa kind of get into the complexity that it's become with applications, submissions, processing, policy, and really what our staff are having to deal with all the changes that are happening set forth by the Department of Human Services. Chris.
Thank you. As you know, I'm sure you know that there are multiple programs within, that we administer, the public assistance programs, multiple cash programs, SNAP, healthcare, and then within healthcare, we've got many, many different areas that people can fall into. The policy is, different for every program. We, and it, this has been the way it has been for many years. I've been in the, working as in the eligibility area for about 33 years. So, we've seen the constant changes, but nothing like we're seeing now. It's becoming increasingly difficult for us to keep staff. They just can't keep up with the work. And we're having difficulty even filling those positions. So I have a real concern going forward, what this means for the administration of the public assistance programs. At least in greater Minnesota, we don't have the luxury of learning one program. We have to learn them all. Right. And I know that our surrounding counties share in the same concerns. So, right now we're seeing an increase in applications. I think that much of that is to do with, the benefits that have been, the additional benefits that have been given to people, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I know people needed additional help to get through, but it's 2 years now. And so with all the regular policy for each program, we have a second set of COVID policy rules that it's overwhelming for the eligibility workers to keep up with. So, what we're seeing is that all the changes that are made are to make it's easier access for the clients or the participants, but much more work for the eligibility workers. We just don't have, that's right, we can't keep them. We can't even hire them. We hired somebody, 2 people this last week. One showed up, one didn't. So back to the drawing board. People are even taking demotions because they can't do the work any longer.
Well, you're hitting the nail right on the head when you say the other counties are in the same place. They are.
Yep, I know.
I hear this wherever I go, and this comes up in discussion. Health and Human Services as an agency, or the ones that represent Health and Human Services in the state, need to have a lot of change. We're putting out too many new policies, we're putting out too many mandates, and we're not supporting them. And we had some things that we were going to try to get across the finish line, but the Health and Human Services bill was 970 pages long. And I don't know if you've seen a bill from the Capitol, but 970 pages. They're extra long pages. They're extra small print. I have to carry my magnifying glass with me to read them, and I need to have a lawyer sitting with me just to understand it.
Yep, I understand that.
So I hear what you're saying, but we are mandating too many things and not funding them at the same time. and we're doing too much at once, and you can't digest all of it.
No,
And you can't do all of it.
no.
And I understand that. I agree with you completely.
Okay, yeah, you know, the legislative changes for this session, again, are, you know, summed up nicely in this bulletin. But again, they are easier access for the participants, more work for the eligibility workers, more work and more time.
For you folks.
Yep, and we just don't have it.
And we can't keep up.
No.
I mean, the volume of applications that are coming in from day to day, the workers are getting 5 or 6 each new applications a day. We, here have a number of different programs that have different eligibility requirements for each program to start over the next day and not finishing the work from the day prior. It's overwhelming with little to no help from DHS. They're very slow if they even respond to voicemails, emails. They ask us to refer to protocol, which we have question about, and they can't answer the questions. So it becomes very difficult.
Or it's a year later. Well, that client is long gone.
Right, right.
We don't need the answer.
How many folks do you have working in this area, in the county?
We have 16 eligibility workers, 15 eligibility workers and 1 lead eligibility worker.
And how many should?
When we're fully staffed.
When you're fully staffed, okay.
And it takes a good year to
Yes.
train them. So
Sure.
seasoned, probably split that down half.
Yeah, the rest are new and in training, carrying, you know, just a partial caseload because, you know, they have to learn. And so that means a greater burden for the experienced
With
workers.
the ever-changing
to
protocols
carry
that are
the-
coming
Yeah,
with the
Yep.
pre-post.
And you're not getting applicants. And then when you do make a hire, you said one showed up and one didn't.
right.
Yep.
We're getting applicants, but not for our jobs.
And again, it takes a year to train them, so we're
Yeah.
always
What-
behind the ball.
What kind of, what's the criteria for one of those jobs for somebody? What kind of schooling do they have to have? What kind of?
High school
High
diploma.
school, okay. Just curious. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, certainly this is an area that is going to be very high on the priority list in the next session. It's one that, you know, everybody is, you know, that I talk to in the legislature are very concerned about. So I think it'll be on the top of the priority list. I would make sure that whoever replaces me, that you'll find that out in November, that you try to get them to come in and talk, sit down and talk to you and, you know, just give them the lay of the land. Because probably they're not gonna have this experience and they'll need some education. We try to kind of know a little bit about everything, but this is an area that most people that go into public service as a legislator don't have a lot of experience with.
It's a lot to learn.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen increased applications since probably last September when the unemployment ended.
Yeah.
We've had more applications than we can even process and,
And now, with things that are going on in the economy and so on, I'm sure they're starting to go up again.
yes, and now there was an increase to the gross income limits for SNAP. So, you know, the word is getting out. We're seeing a big increase again.
Yeah, I suppose.
So,
Well, this inflation has gotta be, you know, really affecting people now.
it is.
Not that it hasn't for the last couple of months, but it's getting 9.1 or whatever it is at this point in time, which is crazy, and it's gotta be really affecting people.
And what's frustrating is a state-run, county-administrated, for us in Health and Human Services, the work still needs to get done at the local level.
Yeah.
Whether anything got done at the, down at the Capitol or not. And that's what's frustrating is it tends to roll downhill. We become the mental health authority. We have to process timely applications for good reason, but it just keeps getting more and more complex, and we cannot keep up with the work. And then with the workforce shortage on top of it, we become, I want to say the parent, but the county of financial responsibility. We have to take care of these people, whether there's a workforce or not, from all the continuum of care. And we just recently found out that CMS is reducing their rates for home care as well. So there's another significant impact where we still need to take care of the local constituents. And that's where that county cost shift and that burden becomes quite frustrating locally. So.
Well, I will carry your message back with me. I don't serve on Health and Human Services, but I have a relationship with many legislators that do, and I will certainly carry this message back, and I'm sure they're very aware of it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So, what involvement do you have with the Todd County? I can't think of, is it the care facility, Todd County?
Todd County Clarissa Care Center?
Yeah, yes.
We do have individuals that we care for in the Todd County Clarissa Care Center. I do know Jason Polovic, and actually had touched base with them last week, as a matter of fact, but struggling for workforce as well. Here locally, there's been some changes with ownership in our assisted living and nursing home that we're going to be seeing some changes with as well. I believe it's a very reputable organization that's going to be purchasing it.
Oh,
so
good.
It'll be good, but still struggling workforce.
Well, yeah, the last time I talked to Jason was probably 4 or 5 months ago, and they were so short. They had 22 open rooms, and they couldn't put anyone in those rooms because they just didn't have the help.
I think he's hanging on by his fingernails at this point.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't think that's any different for any care center
No.
across the state of Minnesota with the funding. They're just in a lose-lose
Well,
situation right now.
I tried to pass legislation that would let them recover 50% of what they lost during the pandemic during a certain period of time. And again, that was another one of those things that when the big bill didn't go through, it didn't go through. Because there's a lot of them that are circling the drain.
And that's where I say it comes down to the local level, where we need to start taking care of our people. That it's quite frankly quite scary.
It is. And you look at Clarissa. I think they're probably the biggest employer in town, right?
Could be.
I think most of the people that are in their facility are from that area. That's home, so they're still at home. Their families can come see them, and you know, as we were working through this, you know, was really nervous about if that closes, where are they gonna go?
That is scary.
And
It's a
that
scary
was the
thought.
scariest thing to me. You know, where are these people gonna go?
And I really want to tip my hat to the Hilltop Regional Kitchen, helping us keep people in their home through the meals and the congregate dining. So we are so lucky to have them in our county and in our neighborhoods.
The Hilltop Regional Kitchen is an absolute amazing organization. What they've done in the little town of Eagle Bend is incredible. Well, not the little town, but I mean, it's so far-reaching what they do, but from where it comes from is amazing. My organization delivers food to them on a regular basis, but I mean, they have drivers bring you food, they FedEx food, you know, they have food served there. They're talking about opening a food shelf perhaps at some point in time. It's just incredible what they're able to do. Yeah.
Sure, Mike, go ahead.
I just wanted to add up to the discussion. I know it was a frustrating legislative session, but we are appreciative for some of the legislation that was passed. I think the adult mental health initiatives moving from pilot programs to being codified and securing the funding, so no AMHI is going to lose any of their funding when the new funding formulas come out for those. I think that was a very positive step as well. And also, you know, one of the things we watch closely and are interested to see how that develops is I'm going to say comprehensive reentry, but that's not what I'm looking for. Those that are Rule 20'd competency restoration. That's what I was looking for. Kind of putting a process in place for that. That was kind of out in no man's land before. So I think having something to follow and a process in place is going to be good with that moving forward as well. And just to piggyback on the workforce shortage, we're seeing that across the board in the in-home services for the waiver world. It's concerning with those that need the institutional level of care, like at nursing facilities, but it's getting harder and harder to maintain people in their homes as well with the workforce shortage for those folks that do the work in the homes as well.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. I'm very aware of that. We had some legislation again, and I hate to keep saying this, it sounds like an excuse, but it is what happened. We had some legislation that was going to improve that, and it just didn't make it over the finish line. And, I've been out to some home care situations, and, it's really sad what a home care provider or home care nurse is compensated compared to a nurse at a clinic or in a hospital. And, we're really blessed in our area to have a new hospital, actually several of them. And we're really blessed to have all these new clinics and everything that we have, but they've actually pulled almost all of the nurses out of the nursing homes and out of home care. And you can't blame them, because in most cases it pays almost twice as much when you consider the benefit piece of it. And I was at a home care situation not too long ago where the gal gets 24-hour-a-day care. I think she had 6 care attendants, because 24 hours a day you got to keep moving that shift through the house. And the young lady had to go in the hospital because something significant happened, and she needed hospital care for a short time instead of the home care. And when she went in the hospital, all those home health care workers were let go, because that was their job, taking care of this young lady in their home. So now they're unemployed, they're not getting paid, they don't have any benefits, and it was just awful. And now I was wondering, when she comes back from the hospital, are those same healthcare workers going to be there? And I doubt they will be. And now we have another new hospital coming with, just north of us here. And I'm sure that they're going to need a real significant number of nurses, and they're probably going to pull some out of this area. And they're going to open some new clinics as well. So it's getting more and more difficult to get home health care and nursing home care. We've got to do something with how they're compensated to fix this problem. Nice talking to you.
Representative Poston, I'd just like to recognize that having you here today on a day that we pass our final design of our transfer station, that is just amazing. I mean, you were with us at the bonding tour, you supported this project all the way through, and today is the day that you are here and you get to see that final design. So that's just very exciting. And we have Mike Aberly here from our solid waste department, and he was the one who gave the presentation this morning with that final drawing. So we just greatly appreciate all of your support in seeing that project come all the way to this point.
It's a great project. I'm not going to take very much credit for it. I think you get the majority of the credit. You all did an awesome job.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll invite him back to open house when we have open house.
Absolutely.
'Cause he was the key man here in getting this.
Absolutely.
It's exciting to see phase 2 or whatever we're calling it. We talked about that a couple of years ago, and it's nice to see it come into fruition.
It sure is. So thank you for all of your work on that. I also want to just, if I could just take a minute to also thank Representative Poston for taking part in our work session that we had in April, talking about property values. And we have our assessor Chris Odden here, and that's a very tough discussion to have, and we were just grateful that you were able to participate virtually on that. So thank you for that.
Well, and you know, you did an awesome job.
This one.
You did an awesome job explaining, I'm sorry, you did an awesome job explaining that. You know, I think the people that came to that meeting went away with a really good understanding of how these assessments work. Thank you.
Yep.
And we actually took your, I think you sent me did you have a PowerPoint or something?
Yes.
I don't recall.
Yep.
Shared that with the legislature so that other counties could use that same type of information, same type of format. So you did a great job. Thank you.
Well, and I think that's a really tough discussion to have in that public setting, and for the commissioners to take that on, and the assessor, and for you to take part in that. That's greatly appreciated.
Very tough situation, and I'm glad I was able to be there on Zoom. I was a little frustrated shortly after the Zoom because we were on Zoom because we were going into session. Session that day was about 3 minutes. So had I known that, I'd have been here.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for the time. And I'm not sure if the sheriff had anything that he wanted to share specifically with Representative Poston.
I think you know the concerns of law enforcement is right now. Not getting any better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. We just had more small departments are folding because they just can't find people to work, and it's becoming very onerous on the sheriffs because it's off the sheriff to provide law enforcement to the county, and they can't hire people. How is he going to hire people? So he's not. County with the staff he's already got, maybe he can get one or two. It's beyond critical right now with staff.
I serve on public safety. We've talked about that before. I got a report earlier this week, and I'm going to give you a number, and I may be off just a little bit, but Minneapolis is 818 officers short. That's crazy to me. That's unbelievable, and that's why we're seeing all this street racing and all this firework junk that happened a week or so ago, and all these carjackings and things that have happened. It's just 818 is just hard for me to get my head around being that short.
Yeah.
But it's true in municipalities all over the state, and it's true in counties.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And the sad part of it now is agencies are starting to cannibalize each other. It's like, hey, you come over here, I'm gonna give you a $5,000 bonus, and we'll start you over here.
Yeah.
So people are, you can't blame somebody that it's like, well, it's a big carrot, not big, and you got bills to pay. It's like, well, I might as well move on over here. So they know which areas you would be able to do this.
I was speaking with some of the leadership in the highway patrol, and they're losing people for exactly that reason.
They lost their target.
People that come through the academy, and typically they have an agreement when they come through the academy, how much time they have to spend with the highway patrol. I don't know exactly what that is, Sheriff, but they have a time commitment on their contract, and it seems like at the end of that contract they move on to something else because that something else pays better.
Yep. Not only in our road, but in the jail is best.
Well, thank you for doing the job you're doing.
Thank you for doing yours. Hopefully next session we can get some stuff straightened out.
Yeah, I am really optimistic about this next session. I was talking to the commissioners just a little bit ago, and I said that I believe that in the House anyway, probably 30 to 40% of the legislators are not career politicians. And that's a really good thing, okay? Because the non-career politicians are the ones that work with everybody, work across the aisle, work to get things done. And I think the way this election is shaping up, that 30 to 40% is gonna jump much higher than that, and that's a good thing. On both sides of the aisle, it'll mean people are gonna work together better than they have in the past. My 6 years, it has gone from not very good to really, really, really bad, you know, between the two parties, between the two bodies, the House and the Senate, and between the legislature and the administration. It's got to get better, because there's so much good work that we should be doing for Minnesotans. And so I hope with less career politicians, it will mean an improvement in that area. Very optimistic.
Mr. Chair, I'll pause in case there's something specific the commissioners have questions on or topics they want to bring.
Specific questions, commissioners?
No, I did hear on the radio this morning coming in that the governor does want to hold a special session, but he's throwing the Republicans under the bus, so I don't get it.
Randy, he has said that, you know, he would like to do that, but behind the scenes, trying to get that agreement that I spoke about, where you have every House member and every senator, you know, agreeing to get stuff over the finish line, is really, really hard to do. The other problem, and the governor, quite honestly, the governor is the only one that can call special session. Mm-hmm. The Senate ends special session. So he can call us in, and if they don't have those agreements and things are gonna go, you know, pretty quickly and get those agreements done, it could go on for a very, very long time, and there could be a lot of things discussed and done that he doesn't necessarily want to see happen.
Okay.
So I'm not optimistic that will happen. I really don't think it will. But we'll see. Could be wrong. I thought you were going to ask a question about lakes or ditches. You were hoping.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to send a message, and you can carry this to wherever you want, but for not getting things done at the legislative level and the governor not calling a special session, and with the inflation rate going, the way it's going, John, and prices, the only thing that they're doing is hurting us. They're not helping us, because we're going deeper and deeper into the hole here. Mm-hmm. And how are we gonna get out of it? A special session, I don't think is gonna get us out of it, but they're gonna have to learn, as you said, to work together to accomplish who they represent, us the people. And if they don't do that, that is meaningless. They aren't taking their oath of office very serious.
No.
And to me, it's a lot of disappointment.
Absolutely.
I'm not running again. I'm like you, I'm leaving the political arena, but still keep my nose in it because I pay attention to what's going on. But it's not, you know, people are out there, there's more people out there now with the baby boomers who are on limited income, who are going backwards rather than forward. They're dipping into their savings, they're using up their stock market investments, they're losing actually with the stock market, and something has to stop here. Otherwise, people are just gonna go broke, and it's just gonna be a mess here coming up if we don't get things straightened out. So to sit there and say, well, I'm not gonna call a special session because we can't get anything accomplished, well, he's probably right. You can't get anything accomplished because if you don't work together, you don't get it done. So I really give you kudos for saying we gotta work together, they have to work together, they should work together. And it's like us as a board, you know, we can agree to disagree, but if we get nothing done, we're not representing the people we're elected by, so.
Absolutely, and like I said, Commissioner, you know, right now, you know, you always know that the two parties are going to have some differences, and that's okay.
A given, you know, yeah.
That's okay. And you kind of know that the two bodies are going to have some differences, the House and the Senate, and that's okay. there's a lot of contention between the legislature and the administration right now. That's very difficult. And then there's that Metro Greater Minnesota component of it. I don't mean to sound partisan in what I'm about to say, but you know, we have to start working together. And actually that kind of has to happen with our governor too.
Everybody.
And I will tell you that as a sitting member of the legislature, with him as our governor, he has never one time, and I don't mean to sound, again, overly partisan, he's never returned a phone call from me, he's never returned an email from me, and he's never granted me a meeting to come talk to him. That's how bad it's gotten.
Well, I was listening to the news this morning, and they interviewed an elderly gentleman, and what his statement to me meant a lot. He said to the TV interviewer, to the people, vote smart. Who you're voting for is what's going to happen in the future. So I thought that meant a lot to me. You know, I always said voters need to know who they're voting for and what they stand for and what they want to accomplish. You know, if they come in with an agenda, it's not going to happen, John.
Yep.
Come in with common sense and
Right.
be able to negotiate and work with people. So
Yep.
anyway, I just wanted to make those comments. I just think this board is frustrated with what's going on with the state, nationally, and the whole works. And our department heads, if I can speak for them, I think they're frustrated too. It's just a bunch of rules, regulations that make no sense half the time. We can't find help, we're struggling. I think if you look at our consent agenda, every board meeting, people are resigning or else we're hiring, if we can find someone to hire. It's just nonstop. So, and that's been for the last year, I think, or so. It's just, it's a revolving door here. It's gotta stop someplace. So.
I'm frustrated with you, Commissioner. I understand completely. And we are going to have to get to that point where we're able to work in a bipartisan way. And, you know, again, we're not going to agree on everything, but we should respect one another. We should be civil to one another, and we should try to get good things done for the people of Minnesota. You know, I said earlier that when I vote on something, you know, I understand that I vote for my constituents. So I always have to say, would my constituents want me to vote for this or not vote for this? And that's how I vote. And often I call people in the district and just say, hey, this bill is coming up, what do you think? And get people's opinions. And that's how we all have to be. I think you have to.
Thank you for that.
You have to go in there and work that way.
Good common sense approach.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Chair, we might have one more really brief comment. Maybe, Pete, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Couple of comments. One was the bonus for the Iraq, Afghanistan veterans.
Yeah.
That went through.
Yes.
That's being, we've already had applications for that. That's going well. Thank you for that. The other thing, sometimes you said we win by not getting things through, and I think they F 2366, where they were trying to take electronic gaming away from charitable organizations. That's a perfect example of that, I think. We need to continue to assist that. That's really important to the Legions and VFWs to be able to have that available to them as an income stream to then disseminate, donate to community projects, that sort of thing. Our local Legion here on Commerce Avenue, our Commerce down there, they've donated a tremendous amount of money to this community, a bunch of different things, and a lot of that comes from that electronic gaming.
Well, my position on it was we were going to try to get a bigger percentage to the charities. You know, again, we talked about how much we're overtaxing, and that money's going in the bank, right? We don't need to do that in this case. We should give more money to these charities and these organizations that spend it really well. I'm a Lion, so you know I know what you know, good things Lions do, as well as, you know, pretty much all the other organizations that are like that for our communities. I'm also in kind of a funny situation when we talk about this in the legislature, because I'm in the restaurant business and I operate a charity. And my charity benefits from pull tabs, and we have them in all of our locations. So I do see what happens with that money. It's important. Should get more of it. The state doesn't need more.
Questions, what do you think the chances are of getting the property tax relief for, like, the post homes, the VFWs?
Say that one more time.
The property tax relief, the Commander's Task Force, for Minnesota has put that forward a couple of times, to try and get something. There's a snowball's chance in hell of that happening, or?
Yes, yeah, I do. I do, you know, anything for, anything typically for veterans. You know, I've served on veterans now for 6 years, and it's usually the committee that we have the most bipartisan work on, right? Because everyone loves our veterans. And I think this came up very late in our session, too late to get it done. And as you know, we had kind of some problems with the veterans bill at the very end of our session, which was very unusual. But they, instead of doing a veterans bill on its own, they tucked it in with some other things in an omnibus bill, and we got that changed at the very last minute. I think it was just too late in the session for us to get that done, but I think it will. I don't know what it will be, you know, what the...
What exactly it will look like when it comes out the other end, the
Right.
sausage stuff?
Yeah, I don't know what that's gonna be, but yeah, I think it will. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think that wraps it up for anything that we were looking for here.
Okay, and again, thank you very much for coming, listening.
Well, thank all of you. It's just been a real pleasure working with all of you, representing the county. And I'm on duty until the last day of December at midnight. So if you need anything, let me know.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be talking about ponds and ditches.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh,
lakes.
of course. Oh,
Lakes,
yes.
ponds, and ditches.
We're doing a lake tour this week.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just, we are having a little gathering afterwards just to be able to appreciate Representative Poston and a little luncheon, and the department heads will be joining us, so.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I think, yeah, a little round of applause. All right, that'll end the work session for today, and we'll